Hello super friends and welcome to DC TV Talk. This is the show where we talk all things Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow and Black Lightning. In today's video we'll be discussing a recent amount of leaks that have come out regarding Arrow Season 7 just ahead of Comic-Con, so let's discuss. Also, if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this, be sure to head to my podcast channel, which is called Honor Thy Podcast. It is a weekly DC TV Arrowverse podcast I do with my good friend Dan McCants, aka Mulekick Media. So if you like this video and you want to see more, be sure to head to the link in the description down below. It seems like recently all we're covering in the DC TV kind of YouTube community is all these leaks that have been coming out about all the respective shows. And these last couple that have come out recently, I believe there's been some leaks for Supergirl, Legends, Arrow and Flash. I think they've all had some leaks, but the ones that I'm aware of at the moment, I think one's for Arrow and the one for Flash. I'd like to shout out Paigey for getting the information here. I'm not actually sure where the leaks actually originate from, but I heard them from Paigey, so full credit goes to him for getting me this information. And it's quite strange because obviously Comic-Con is literally, you know, I mean the DC TV panels are literally a few hours away from now. I'll be able to cover them all tomorrow, but it's quite interesting to see all these leaks come out at this point, but let's just go through each of them one by one. So the first one reads, the season is being treated as the last because it might be. Season 6 wasn't well liked by anyone behind the scenes, save for the showrunners. Now this makes a lot of sense if you know anything about Arrow and you know the behind the scenes stuff going on. Obviously, the showrunners who were previously on the show being Mark Guggenheim and Wendy Mericle, who have now stepped down, were pretty much... I mean, they weren't exactly the greatest thing for Arrow. I mean, they've kind of been responsible for many of the plagued storylines of Arrow, such as Olicity in Season 4, and also, you know, the Team Arrow divide in Season 6, which was kind of like the big thing. So the fact that, obviously, the cast has been very vocal as well. Like, at Heroes and Villains Fan Fest in London, David Ramsey was talking about how he really wasn't happy about how they were treating Diggle in Season 6. And you can see that, and again, I think Oliver wasn't exactly, or Stephen Amell wasn't exactly happy with how his show was kind of going, so hence why Wendy Mericle and also Mark Guggenheim have stepped down, and now we have Beth Schwartz, who is a writer on the Arrow team, who's now stepped up as the showrunner for Season 7. So the fact that this is being treated as the last, I'm very happy about, just because, again, there's no security for Season 8 here, so I like the fact they're doing that, and I think Beth Schwartz is really going to do a lot of good things in her position now as showrunner. The next one reads, time skip. Oliver has been in prison for at least a year. Now, obviously we know Oliver is in prison. By the time we get around to Season 7, he would have been in prison for about 6 months. Now, this one really confuses me, because thinking about it, it's just like, why would he be in a year? Because obviously the big problem with that is that Arrow exists within the Arrowverse. So if it's in prison for a year and there's a time skip, that means that Arrow is going to be out of sync to the rest of the Arrowverse shows, which is going to be troublesome when we get to the crossover. So that's very strange. Also, by the way, the crossover has actually been confirmed to be episode 9 this season. So whether that's going to be the mid-season finale, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But it seems like, well, it has been confirmed episode 9 is going to be the crossover. But if Oliver is going to be in prison for a year, it's going to make it out of sync. So I don't know what exactly to make of this. It could be true, and if Arrow was its own standalone show, then obviously this would, you know, we kind of be none the wiser, and I think a time skip would actually be pretty cool. If Arrow was actually a completely standalone show, I think it would have been really cool to have Oliver in prison for 5 years. You know, 5 years in hell. I think that would have been a really cool idea, but obviously they could never do that because of the Arrowverse. But again, I don't think they can do this. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense, and I don't understand why this might be happening, and if Arrow is going to be out of sync, because obviously we know that Arrow is going to have quite a big presence in the crossover this year, so again, I don't understand why this is going to be necessary, but I really don't know what to make of that one. The next one reads, the Department of Justice is getting involved apparently, and want Oliver to be put on death row as a message to vigilantes everywhere. Now this is a pretty cool idea, the fact that obviously the big boys are coming in and saying, look, we've finally got kind of the biggest vigilante in the Arrowverse, let's just put him on death row, let's kill him and show every other vigilante in Star City and quite frankly around the world that this is not what you should be doing. It makes a lot of sense from a government standpoint, but also what I really like about this is I've always been struggling with the idea of why is Oliver going to break out of prison, because you know, he gave himself up to the FBI. You know, he gave himself up. He did that. He sacrificed everything in order just to stop Diaz and to save the city. So, you know, why would he break out? It just doesn't really make much sense. But if they are planning to kill him, then that makes perfect sense. I can totally see why Oliver is going to be like, right, I need to get out of here. Like, you know, I'm not going to die in here. So I really like the fact that this is actually giving some justification as to why Oliver is going to break out of prison. Could this be why Roy comes back? Maybe. But I think it's really cool just to see that Oliver is going to be breaking out of prison because of this reason, if this turns out to be true. The next one reads simply, Star City has gone to complete shit. Now, I find this weird because obviously this is that typical kind of thing where, oh, the vigilante's gone and the hero's gone and now the city has just completely fallen apart. Oh, looks like we need him. But, you know, there is still vigilantes in Star City. There's still Team Arrow. I mean, Oliver's gone, sure, but Team Arrow is still there. So how incompetent are Team Arrow if they're not able to keep Star City at least under control a little bit while Oliver's gone? I mean, you still have Diggle and you still have Dinah, Renee, Curtis, or at least I assume that's the case. There is actually another leak on this list that may actually prove otherwise. But I find it very strange that, you know, as soon as the Green Arrow has gone, Star City is just completely fallen apart. So I mean, this makes sense. I could definitely see this happening just because it's kind of a typical superhero trope. I just find it strange when there are other vigilantes in Star City, and is this kind of proving their incompetence, considering how they don't have Oliver to fall back on. The next leak reads that Wild Dog and Mr. Terrific have apparently retired. Now, this is interesting. I didn't really expect this. Wild Dog retiring is something I think a lot of us spoke about in Season 6 after everything that went down. But also the fact that Mr. Terrific has retired is very interesting. I would actually really like this if they said, oh, that these two characters have retired. Especially because it seems like we're getting a couple of more new kind of vigilante characters coming in next season. Perhaps they are their replacements? Because you guys know I've never been a big fan of Curtis actually being a field operative inside of Team Arrow. I'd much rather him be more like the tech guy. Or personally, I'd like to see him go to Legends if I could take the choice. But the fact that he's retiring I find interesting. And Wild Dog, because I actually had a theory that perhaps Wild Dog might die in Season 6, just like earlier on in the season. But he didn't. And I thought, oh, well, he could retire. So this does make sense, and I can definitely see this happening. It's just obviously Diggle must be still operating, and so must Dinah, so that's quite interesting. It's just going to have to see, you know, the dynamic is what happened and why did they decide to do this. Next up, Diaz isn't the main villain, but he'll be a major secondary villain. The Longbow Hunters are the main villains. The Longbow Hunters consist of Black Spider, Codename Assassin, Crimson Archer, and Captain Boomerang 2. Okay, this makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, we kind of knew that Diaz wasn't going to be the big bad in next season. We've discussed that a lot on this channel. But the fact he's going to be a major secondary villain, I like that. I like the fact he's still going to be a big presence. I want Ricardo Diaz to be a big villainous presence next season. But the Longbow Hunters are the main villains, which I think a lot of us expected. Now, in terms of giving us the members of the Longbow Hunters, there's 4 of them. Black Spider, Codename Assassin, Crimson Archer, and Captain Boomerang 2. I like the sound of that. I think they all sound like really cool characters. I don't know if any of them are a particular character in the comics. None of them ring a bell. Obviously, there is Captain Boomerang, and the fact it's called Captain Boomerang 2 really confuses me. I can't wait to see them explain that one. But besides Captain Boomerang 2, you know, Crimson Archer, I like the fact there's an Archer on the team. I like that. Again, just keeping to Arrow. And Black Spider, Codename Assassin. I think they sound like a really cool group of characters, and I can't wait to see them come to fruition in Season 7, if this is true. Unfortunately, there'll be a lot of meeting the new guys while Ollie's in prison. Now, I don't know what they mean by new guys. I assume they mean new characters. So obviously we have got a few new characters coming in next season, such as the character known as Konomi Rhodes. She is going to be introduced, and she seems to be kind of like a new vigilante who's operating in Star City, so we could be interacting with her. There's also that other character who a lot of us have speculated to be Ted Cord, aka Blue Beetle. So he could be a big focus. I quite like the fact that obviously if Oliver's in prison, we're not going to really be focusing on him as much, especially if the flashback rumor is true. Where we could be flashbacking to Oliver in prison, so we don't need to focus him on the modern day, so we can just focus on these new characters who are going to need that development. And if we are going to be getting these developments on these new characters, if these new characters are good and are compelling, then it'd be great to get the development they need, especially because I'm really interested in the Ted Cord character, and I'm very interested in Konomi Rhodes, so if that's what that means, I'm totally down for that, and that seems totally deserved. And Roy Harper returns to Star City in episode 1, and by the end becomes the new Green Arrow. Now this I found very interesting. Obviously we knew Roy was coming back, and we kind of knew he was going to be in episode 1 because Colton Haynes was in Vancouver pretty... he came in sort of like later on in the filming, but he was there during episode 1. So the fact he is going to be there in episode 1, I like that. I like the fact that they are just bringing in Roy straight away. because I need more Roy in my life. And but by the end, he's going to become the new Green Arrow. I think that's really interesting. Obviously, Roy Harper's name has been cleared. So now he's kind of free to come back, although I kind of thought that, isn't he dead to the public? I'm pretty sure, because obviously he was arrested for being the Green Arrow, and then he was killed in prison as a cover-up, although, I don't know, some people are saying that during the court case it was actually brought up that he was actually, he was actually alive. I don't know. I don't really know what the public perception of Roy Harper is at the moment, but the fact he's going to become the new Green Arrow, I like the fact that he'll become the new Green Arrow. I think he really suits that role, I really do. It'll be interesting if he wears Oliver's suit. I think that'd be quite cool. But then I do have to think what's going on with Diggle, because obviously Diggle had the suit at the end. He could easily take up the mantle of the Green Arrow, especially after everything that went down in Season 6. You'd have to think that Diggle would want that. But I don't know. I like the fact that Roy's coming back. I'd much rather Roy be the Green Arrow than Diggle. I think Roy suits the role a lot better. He was trained under Oliver, and he is an archer like Oliver, so I guess that would work a lot better. But the fact that Roy is coming back in episode 1, I like, and the fact he's going to become the Green Arrow, I'm also happy about. The Court of Owls will be the crossover villains, however they also seem to have an interest in Oliver. They will also be shown to have an interest in Barry and his powers. So this one's a bit more crossover focused, and this is the final leak as well. So the Court of Owls will be the crossover villain. This is something that was rumoured a while back. We kind of discussed this before, that they're going for a lot more of a grounded tone within the crossover, and obviously these are Batman villains, and given the fact that we are going to Gotham and getting introduced to Batwoman, that makes a lot of sense. They're going to have an interest in Oliver. I don't know why they're going to have an interest in Oliver. It's not like he, the fact they have an interest in Barry, the Flash, I think that makes a lot of sense, because obviously he's a speedster, he has powers. Oliver, I don't really understand. I guess we'll just have to wait and see on that one. But I think that having the confirmation of the Court of Owls, well, confirmation in air quotes, I think that's cool. I want to see the Court of Owls, although I just want to see how they're going to interact in the overall context of the crossover, and why they have an interest in Oliver, because I don't quite see it. Barry I get, but Oliver not quite. Well, what do you guys think about all these leaks? Tell me all your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think about all of them? Are your thoughts? And just, what do you think about all of them individually? Because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about there, and there's quite a lot of weird stuff that is quite difficult to undertake, especially when you look at like Roy coming back as the Green Arrow, and then also Wild Dog and Mr. Terrific retiring. I think there's just a lot of stuff to pinpoint there, so make sure you let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV, and get them to join the community. And as always guys, please subscribe for your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Arrow, and Black Lightning. And with all that said guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.